السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. We finished with ayah number 76 from Surah Al-Baqara. Anybody remembers otherwise? This section, as we explained before, was talking about the deviant group of the Jewish leaders who did not want the Muslims to know anything about what their book says about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they knew among themselves in ayat 76, and if they see the believers, they say, we believe, and if they are alone with each other, they tell each other, would you tell them what Allah has given you of knowledge and information so that they can use it to argue against you on the day of judgment? That's ayah number 76. In ayah number 77, we are still in Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't they know that Allah knows what they keep as secrets and what they declare in public? أَوَلَا يَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا يُسِرُّونَ وَمَا يُعْلِنُونَ. It is very important when we read any ayah like this that we are in a position to remember that what we say in public is what we say in private. Consistency of faith depends upon how consistent we are between what we say privately and what we say publicly. The Muslim is always transparent. He doesn't tell you something in secret, opposite to what he says in public. These are acts of people who practice hypocrisy, not people who practice the faith of Islam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is raising a rhetorical question. Don't they know that Allah knows what they conceal and what they declare in public or publicly? Ayah number 78, وَمِنْهُمْ أُمِّيُّونَ. Some of them are unlettered. Ummi means unlettered in this context. لا يعلمون الكتاب. They don't know the book. They have not studied the book. Except for wishful thinking. I want you to pay attention to this. Do you sometimes meet Muslims who pretend that they know the Quran, they know the Sunnah, and once you go and study on your own, you discover that what they are saying has nothing to do with the Quran, right? They pretend. Those people use what is called wishful thinking. They use their assumption about knowledge as knowledge or substitute for knowledge. Okay? Somebody who attended a class or two or read a book or two, and they claim they know the whole of Islam and they don't need any more education. Akhi, I know it, they tell you, right? And the purpose is to show off as if they have the knowledge. This is their wishful claim. وَمِنْهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا أَمَانِيٌّ وَإِنْهُمْ إِلَّا يَظُنُّونَ. They are only using conjecture. It's only what comes to their head, they consider it to be Islam. Even their own ideas, they push it as Islam. And in this ayah is a remarkable warning for us Muslims as to whom do we listen to as sources of knowledge, because it does matter, especially when you get used at young age to listening to someone who doesn't have authentic references to give you, you have to be careful. So always ask for the sources, always ask for the reference. And we know that the sources are the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Those are the sources we rely on. So in the rebuke, ayah number 79, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, woe to those who write the book with their own hands. What about those who speak and say this is from the Quran, this is from the Sunnah, and it is not? Woe to those who write the book with their own hands, and then they say this is from Allah. What is the purpose? To buy with it little price. They just want to achieve little gain. فَوَيْلٌ لَهُمْ مِمَّا كَتَبَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. Woe to them because of what they have written by their hands, and woe to them because of what they have earned. So we have to be careful as Muslims. When we learn anything from anyone, go study. As if you hear some part of the news and you're not certain, what do? You go search, right? And in your age, in your generation, you get all the sources you want at your fingertip, literally. Just play with the computer, it will give you the sources. So your generation shouldn't have an excuse of, I am sorry, I don't know. Whatever you should know, don't just rely on verbal, oral sources. Dig knowledge for yourself and check the knowledge yourself. Everybody, including your speaker tonight, is subject to correction, and I stand corrected. If I give you any information that you find it to the contrary of your sources, you owe it to me to tell me, and I owe it to you to thank you. This is how Islam works. Khalifa Abu Bakr and Khalifa Umar, they used to say to the people, there is no goodness in us, meaning them as leaders, right? If we don't listen to you, and there is no goodness in you if you do not speak to us. This is Islam. This is Islam. So this rebuke should warn us that we should never attribute any statement to Allah that is not in the Quran. We should never attribute anything to the Prophet that is not an authentic hadith in the Sunnah. So ayah number 80, وَقَالُوا لَن تَمَسَّنَا النَّارُ إِلَّا أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودًا. And they said, we will not be touched by hellfire except for few days, countable days. أياما معدودة. قل أتخذتم عند الله عهدا. Have you taken a covenant from Allah, so Allah would never renege on his covenant? فلن يخلف الله عهده أم تقولون على الله ما لا تعلمون. Or else are you attributing statements to Allah of which you have no knowledge? You're just saying, Allah saying, Allah saying, and you don't have any source that is reliable to make that statement. So those who twisted the books, and this was the norm in those days, a learned person who would write anything that he thinks is righteous, he could say this is from God, make a book. And you find books written both in the Old Testament and New Testament, full of goodwill, full of good intention, but they cannot authentically be attributed to Allah. They cannot. But they affect people. When you read it, you're affected by what it says. So Allah is saying that they were relying on the claim that we will not be touched by hellfire except for a few days. So Allah questions this claim and says, did you get a covenant from Allah? Do you have a promise from Allah that He would not renege on? Or are you attributing to Allah things you have no knowledge of? In those days, the change was not just verbal through interpretation, but because Muslims have gotten their book secure. Nobody could change the text in the Quran itself. And there have been hundreds of attempts to print Quran both in Arabic and in other languages that is not accurate, and in some cases change the content, the words of Allah. But they have been discovered. Do you know who discovered them? It's people like you. People whose knowledge of Arabic is little, but they had memorized the whole of Quran. So this kind of copy fell in the hands of people in Indonesia, in Pakistan, in places where the Arabic is not the native language. But those young Huffaz like you, they discovered that this book is not what I memorize, and they pointed to the government and they were banned. They were banned. So that's one way. But because the Quran is too difficult to change it word for another word or replace a statement, so what do people use to change the Quran? They focus on changing what it means. They focus on giving you the meaning they want you to get. Oh, akhi, this ayah is not what you think it is. No, it's something different. And that means we do not only have to make sure that the text is correct, but we have to study the meaning so that nobody confuses us about what it actually means. Allah answers their claim in ayah number 81. Nay, he who earns something evil, and his evil surrounded him and seized him, those are the companions of fire, and they will be there for eternity. Again, Allah saying, in answer to their claim that we will only be in hellfire for a few days, He's saying, no. Those who have earned evil works, evil acts, evil anything, they will be the companions of fire, the companions of hellfire, and they will be there for eternity, which means nobody could feel secure if he does something contrary to what Allah tells him to do. He could never be sure and say, okay, I will stay in hellfire for a few days. Nobody who respects his study, his learning of the Quran, could make this, at least not to people who understand what the Quran is saying. You see the importance of learning our book? If I don't know my book, somebody could come and tell me, listen, this is a small thing, if you just do it, try it this time, one time, I could be dragged, I could be tempted. And then he wants to assure you, even if you go to hellfire, it's going to be a few days. This is similar to those claims that Allah refutes very categorically. And then it goes on to assure the believers, as far as those who have believed and have done righteous deeds, those are the companions of paradise. May Allah make us all among the companions of paradise. Also, they will be there for eternity. Hum fiha khalidun. Then it comes up with a story for our learning and our admonishment. وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ لَا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. And remember and behold, as we have taken the covenant from the children of Israel, that you worship none but Allah. Look at the covenant, because it's similar to the covenant Allah took from us. When you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, this is a statement of the covenant between you and Allah, which means that there is no God, there is no one worthy of worship but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is your role model and he is the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which means I will do and commit to anything Allah expects of me, and I will do and follow whatever the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed me to follow or do. لا تعبدون إلا الله, worship none but Allah. وبالوالدين إحسانا, and be nice, be good, be courteous, be respectful, be obedient to your parents. Parents in plural, not just the one that agrees with you. Parents means two, and they could be more. If you have grandparents, in Arabic they are called parents as well. If you have great grandparents, they are also called parents. So parents and their parents and the parents of their parents, they are all to be listened to with respect. Those people will give you the juice of their experience, their wisdom, and their knowledge in life, and there is not a single person that will ever come in your life who would ever love you and care for you as your parents do. So, لا تعبدون إلا الله, you will always find whenever Allah talks about His obedient, He follows with the obedience to parents, to be good to your parents, to be kind to your parents. Then, وَذِي الْقُرْبَى, your kin, your relative, your tribesmen and women and children, those are also deserving of your goodness. So show them your best and give them your best. وَالْيَتَامَى, and the orphans, and al-masakin, the destitute, those who have nothing in their life. You know that al-faqir is someone who doesn't have food for tomorrow. Al-miskin is one who doesn't have food for now. That's miskin. He was called miskin because al-faqr amsakahu an al-haraka. He is too hungry, too frail, too weak, too sick because he has not eaten for a long time to move and go fend for himself. This is the miskin. So he may not be handicapped, but he is someone, for example, who doesn't have a job. Or maybe he has a job, but it's only enough to put a roof over his head or her head. But he didn't have food for some time. And we need to acknowledge this and work to eliminate this phenomenon. We have people among our community members who do not have enough food, not for themselves, not for their children. So don't judge others by either their look or your personal experience. You may think you don't have everything you want, but there are people who don't have many of the things they need to survive. So those are the people that Allah is advising us and ordering us to take care of. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. This covenant was taken from the children of Israel, as it says in the beginning of the ayah number 83. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. We spoke before that إقامة الصلاة is not just standing up and praying. As-salah is here picked to highlight the most frequent and most important engagement we have with Allah. But it is to highlight the whole of Islam. If you want to get this from the Quran, read where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالُوا مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرٍ. Who dipped you or what dipped you into hellfire? قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. We were not among the ones who are known for constant and regular prayer. Who are those? Muslims. They were not praying on regular basis. They were not part of the community, and that's why they went to hellfire. So we have to be careful not to take the words for a superficial meaning and leave the rest of it. Prayer is always highlighted as the pillar of the pillars of Islam. And that's why it comes immediately after the Shahada. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةِ. آتُوا الزَّكَاةِ is not to be translated like give the zakah, because excuse me, atu means take the zakah forth and reach with it to the needy people. There's a difference between give and bring forward, bring forth the zakah to its deserving recipients that are assigned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see the difference between ata wa a'ta. Ata means to take your zakah and search for those deserving the zakah and reach with your zakah to their places. And this is what the companions of the Prophet ﷺ used to do. They used to take their zakah to the places of the people who are poor. They did not say, I'm holding a day, if you want zakah, come and take it. No, they would reach out with it. It is said in the life of the followers of the first generation, the followers of the companions of the Prophet, the generation called At-Tabi'in, that someone went to someone else to borrow money from. And he reached there and he told him his condition, and he said, I need some money as a loan to help me. And the host went inside his home and he brought a small bag of whatever resources he had, money, whatever. And as he brought it to his guest, he was weeping, tears on his face. So the guest thought that he is giving him while he himself needs it, and that's why he's crying. So he reluctantly said, listen, my friend, you could keep your money. I'm sorry that I disturbed you. I can manage without it. He said, why? He said, you're weeping, and I know that as I do need it, you may need it too. He said, no, it's not that. I am weeping because I should have known your need without forcing you to come and feel embarrassed and ask. I am crying because I didn't notice on my own. It took your embarrassment for me to get the money. So I am crying because I should have known. This is the spirit that people dealt with. This is how they think. This is how they live. So وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةِ, take your zakah money to those who deserve it. Then Allah tells the children of Israel, after all of this covenant, ثُمَّ تَوَلَّيْتُمْ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِنْكُمْ. You've turned away from the worship of Allah to the worship of the calf, from being kind to your parents to being vulgar and inappropriate, from being good to being evil, from reaching out to those kin and relatives to abandoning them, from caring for the orphan to abandoning the orphan and the destitute, from prayer to no prayer, from zakah to no zakah. ثُمَّ تَوَلَّيْتُمْ. And the ayah, next ayah, will give us what exactly they have done. Okay? So, ثُمَّ تَوَلَّيْتُمْ, you turned away from these teachings, except for a few. And every ummah always has those few. Every ummah has those few. Like when we say, for example, because Muslims left the teachings of the Quran behind them, we do not necessarily mean that all Muslims. But when the majority do something, we tend to use generalization, and it is appropriate to use generalization, but we should never use overgeneralization. Overgeneralization is when we swear or we state or we claim that every Muslim is, because we are not all alike. Not every Muslim is a righteous person. Not every Muslim is a wicked person. Likewise, the same applies to other communities. So Allah is telling us to sort as we speak. So He's saying, إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, except for a few in the community. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِنْكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ مُعْرِضُونَ. You are just turning away from the teachings and the covenant that Allah has taken from you. Then it goes on, ayah number 84, وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ. And remember and behold, as we have taken your covenant, لَا تَسْفِكُونَ دِمَاءَكُمْ. Don't shed your own bloods. What does it mean? Don't kill each other. Don't hurt each other. Don't injure each other. لا تسفكون دماءكم ولا تخرجون أنفسكم من دياركم. And don't kick each other from their own homes. The Quran uses the word أنفسكم. أنفسكم, yourselves, because when I hurt you, you are part of me. I'm hurting myself. When I slander you, when I falsely accuse you of something, when I do something to hurt you, in reality I am hurting myself. How? Because I am lessening my reward with Allah, and I am only adding to your reward. And this is a perspective that we need to always consider. We are very angry and sad and sometimes depressed when somebody does something to hurt us or says something to injure us, right? It should be the opposite. We should be very sad if we hurt someone, not if we are hurt by someone. Because whoever hurts you by word or action, they are actually adding credit to your credit with Allah, even if they do it in your absence. Somebody who commits ghaiba, backbiting against you, and he says a lot of stuff. We tend to be very sad when we hear what happened, right? We should not. You should be very happy. It is like somebody putting $10,000 in your account. Do you thank them or rebuke them? I'm asking, do you thank them or rebuke them? You thank them, right? So when somebody backbites you next time, are you willing to tell them thank you? And are you willing to explain to them what you are thanking them for? I am thanking you for adding to my credit. You spend your time and your hasanat giving me credit. Thank you very much. Right? But we should be very sad when we do it to others. We are living in the opposite. We are losing our own credit, right? By turning backbiting with backbiting, turning insult with insult, injury with injury. We should not. We should not lose the credit others give us. And by the way, much of our credit in this dunya is going to come from other people. Much of our sins that we will carry will come from our hurting of others. You know the story, and the story is in Bukhari, that the Prophet ﷺ, إن امرأة دخلت النار في هرة حبستها لا هي أطعمتها وسقتها ولا هي تركتها تأكل من خشاش الأرض. A woman went or was sent to hellfire because she caged a cat. She did not feed it, nor did she leave it go out to fend for herself. So imagine if it is not just a cat, it's another human being. Then think about if this another human being is your brother or your sister or your father or your mom or anyone close. It must be more serious than just a cat. So here, and behold and remember, as we've taken your covenant, not to shed your own blood, and not to kick yourselves out of your own homes, and you confirmed, and you became witnesses yourselves. You testified, yes, we will. This is to the children of Israel. We have the same covenant with Allah. We should never kill each other, even in the most lightest of form. We should never shed each other's blood. We should never even harbor evil towards each other. Our chests and our hearts must be always clear and clean and free from grudges, difficult things. Then you, talking to the children of Israel, you confirmed, أقررتم وأنتم تشهدون, and you were the witnesses. Then ayah number 85, then you yourself are killing each other. You are killing yourselves. And as I explained before, all humans are created from one soul. Right? As such, the Quran talks to us as if we were really one soul. If I kill or hurt one soul, I am hurting my own soul. And so it should be. Then you yourself are killing yourselves, and you drive out a group of you from their own homes. تظاهرون عليهم بالإثم والعدوان. You are taking them with your vengeant, sinful aggression. وَإِن يَأْتُوكُمْ أُسَارَى تُفَادُوهُم. If they are brought to you as captives by others, you fulfill that part of the covenant. You set them free. You set them free. وَإِن يَأْتُوكُمْ أُسَارَى تُفَادُوهُم وَهُوَ مُحَرَّمٌ عَلَيْكُمْ إِخْرَاجُهُم. So what did they do? They were killing each other, like from different tribes or different groups, and those who are being killed from that group, those who are not killed, they run away. They leave their homes because they are afraid for their life. And when they go out, they are hunted as slaves and captives by others. And when they are brought for the ransom, you pay the ransom to free them. Right? But it was prohibited for you to force them out of their homes to start with. وَهُوَ مُحَرَّمٌ عَلَيْكُمْ إِخْرَاجُهُمْ أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Do you believe in part of the book and you deny other parts of the book? It's a rhetorical question. Paying ransom to set your brother free or your neighbor is required as a Muslim if you can, right? So they do that part. But who kicked them out of their homes to start with? It is them. And those are from the same community, not others. So, do you believe in some of the book, in part of the book, and deny other parts? Then it says, فَمَا جَزَاءُ مَنْ يَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ مِنْكُمْ إِلَّا خِزْيٌ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. The only recompense for those who do this is humiliation in this life. Humiliation in this life. And on the day of judgment, they will be turned into severe torment in hellfire. So what is humiliation here? You see, if I fight with my cousin and his siblings run away, so I kill my cousin and his siblings run away because they cannot fight me, and I take his money or I do anything, and then his siblings who fled away are brought to me as captives, right? I ransom them out. I pay off the ransom. Allah saying, why did you kill your cousin? Why did you kick his siblings out of their homes? Why? If you want to keep the covenant, keep the whole covenant. And this is the lesson. Don't you ever nitpick when it comes to applying Quran to your life. What nitpicking do we fall in? We fall in nitpicking when we pray and violate the ethical manners of a Muslim. When we fast, but we violate the ethics of fasting. When we pay zakah, but then we try to gain favor from people that we pay zakah to, or injure them by backbiting or talking negatively against them. Oh, this guy I've been helping for years, he never sought to get work. I even offered him work, he refused. What's wrong with you? Maybe he's mentally sick. Maybe you don't know. So Allah says, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى. To say something good and to overlook and forgive is better than giving a charity and using it to injure and insult the recipient. So you either don't give except good words, but if you give something to help, don't use your giving as a license to lose the reward for what you give. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this in the later part of Surah Al-Baqara. لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. Don't use your sadaqah, don't waste your sadaqah by injuring the recipient of your sadaqah or by making it seem like a favor you are doing to him. In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says that there will be time when you want to give sadaqah to someone and there will be no one to accept your sadaqah. So on the day of judgment, they will be turned into the severest of torment. وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah is not unattentive, is not unaware of what you're doing. Very stark, strong reminder. Whatever we say, He knows it. Whatever we do, He knows it too. Then in description of the people who violate their covenant, as done here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those are the ones who have sold the hereafter and purchased this life. You know that at times you have to choose between reward of this life and reward of the hereafter, and at other times you could win the two. Let me give you two examples. You could win the two, as an example, if you earn your money from halal source, right, and spend it in halal venues, in a halal cause. This, you win this life by earning money, and you win the hereafter by spending it where it should be, according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where you lose this life for the sake of hereafter is when you go extreme and I don't want to work. Why? Because وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى. The hereafter is better than this life. Man, I don't want to waste my life working for this life. I want to work for the hereafter. So what do? I'm going to pray, I'm going to fast, I'm going to do this. By the way, don't laugh. That happened during the life of the Prophet ﷺ. A companion was living just like this. He's always in the masjid, he's always praying, he's always reading Quran. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he was told about him, that he's not going out of the masjid, he says, who is feeding him? Who's providing for him? They said, his brother. He said, his brother is more and better servant of Allah than he is. Why? Because his brother works to earn money, right, to cover his own needs, and he's working harder to earn money to help even his brother, right, who's not working, right? And at the same time, he keeps up with his prayer, right? So to keep up with your prayer and to work is better than just working for dunya, and it's better than working just for what you call al-akhirah in the wrong way, by abandoning your own responsibility. I hope this is clear. So those are the ones who have sold the hereafter for the sake of this life, right? And what they get is torment will never be lessened for them in hellfire. فلا يخفف عنهم العذاب ولا هم ينصرون. They will never be helped by anyone. Do you want to take time for questions, or do you want me to continue? Huh? One more ayah, okay. What, because this ayah will start a whole gamut of issues. So if you have questions, otherwise we can go on. So the question is, there is a phenomenon in our community and other Muslim communities, obviously, to redefine what is hijab and what is not in practice, not just as an idea. And the question is saying, what could we do to clarify the true meaning of hijab? Well, the word hijab in the Arabic language means cover. It also means a barrier. So in the Quran, Allah uses the word hijab where He says, وَإِذَا سَأَلْتُمُوهُنَّ مَتَاعًا, if you ask the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for some food or help or anything, فَاسْأَلُوهُنَّ مِنْ وَرَاءِ حِجَابٍ, ask them from behind the door or behind a barrier. In those days, the door to the home was basically a curtain. You see the curtain behind you? It was a curtain. So the curtain is hijab. The wall is hijab. The door, if it is not glass, it is hijab. Why is it called hijab? The root word for hijab is hajaba, which means to hide or to cover. This is the meaning. Why is the Islamic dress code called hijab in the language? It is because it covers the beauty of the woman and the places of attraction in the woman. It covers. That's what the hijab does. That's why it's called hijab. Some of the flimsy arguments against the dress code for women rely on the word hijab, and they exclusively say hijab means a barrier only, but there is no reference for hijab as a dress code in the Quran. But there are references for the hijab as far as the sunnah is concerned. The ayat of hijab that ordered men and women to lower their gaze and don't stare at each other, right? And don't examine what is beyond the cloth, right? It came based on Umar ibn Khattab telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet Muhammad, good and wicked people come to your home for food and for knowledge and for everything. So why don't you order your wives أن تحتجب منهم, to cover themselves or to stay behind a cover from the public? And the ayat of hijab came down and told the believers, if you want to ask them for something, ask from behind a hijab. And it ordered the Prophet to tell his wives and his daughters to dress properly, and the description is found in the Quran. between Surah An-Nur and Surah Al-Ahzab and other places. So the argument that hijab only means a solid barrier like a wall or a door, because this is the context of using it, does not negate the fact that the word hijab in the language means something to cover. So anything that you use to cover yourself is called cover or hijab. It contradicts the purpose of it. Like, for example, Muslim scholars have set 3 basic requirements for the dress code of Islam. Number 1, it should never show, it should never uncover. So if a woman is supposed to cover, for example, her neck, right? Then showing her neck, the skin of her neck, will be a violation of this condition. If she is supposed to cover any part of her body, which she is, except for the face and the hands, okay, the palm, that's what is allowed, right? Then if she shows any other part, raising her sleeve, rolling her sleeve in public, this would be a violation of the first condition, which is to cover everything except for the hands and the face. The second condition is that it should never show the figure of the body. So if it is tight, that means it violates the second condition to fit into the Islamic dress code requirement. Okay? If it is transparent, like light clothes, light cloth, that means it violates the third condition, which is it should not be transparent. So it should not show, it should not show the figure, it should not show the what is behind the cloth. It should be non-transparent clothing. Well, let us, before we go to what parents could do, to what we need to do as a community. As a community, we must share every piece of knowledge we have, because Allah told this even to the prophets. لَتُبَيِّنُنَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَكْتُمُونَهُ. Show it to people, declare it to people, and never conceal it. Never conceal knowledge. Concealing knowledge will result in the person being tight-lipped on the Day of Judgment by hellish material. من كتم علما ألجمه الله بلجام من نار يوم القيامة. I want you to hear this again. He who hides any piece of knowledge that is beneficial to people, he will be jammed dumb on the Day of Judgment by hellfire. Very serious. So we should talk about the issue. Okay. We should also talk with respect, because every one of us may go through phases in our own faith development. In the beginning, people may not be consistent in their prayer. Young people in particular, they don't have deep knowledge and appreciation of salah, so they skip prayers and do this and this. Don't be hopeless. One day you will value the prayer more than you value anything else. But just keep becoming persistent and more persistent. Okay? Some people who are young do not value a lot of things, but they are growing. So don't depress them by dooming them when they are still young. So we have to always have hope and cultivate hope and cultivate self-confidence until they mature enough. But here is the issue. When we are late starting, we are late harvesting, if we get the harvest. So the Prophet tells us, start teaching prayer to your kids when they are 7 and hold them to account when they are 10. This also is the same age time when you start talking about hijab. When you start, can you try this, honey? Let me just see how it looks. Oh, I don't like this. Just try it. Also, between 7 and 10, parents should try to introduce hijab to their children. Okay? Then by the age of 10, they should insist that they start practicing it in public, because this becomes the era of the practice discipline. So before 10, it's the era of toying with the idea of hijab. But at 10, they should be willing and able to keep up with their prayer on regular basis. They had 3 years or 4 of training, right? And the same thing with hijab. Okay? But knowledge has to always come before practice. Many parents, unfortunately, they want their kids to practice irrespective of the lack of knowledge and the lack of taste and appreciation for the knowledge they get. So we need to focus on this. As a community, I believe we should embrace everyone that comes to this place and make them feel they are part and parcel of the house of Allah, which is not our house. And we should not embarrass them. But they should come willing to listen and learn. The most we get of the mosque, besides the prayer, is knowledge that is practical to our deen and practical to our life. So if somebody comes and insists that even with seeing the hundreds of hijabis, as they are called, right, they choose to be hundreds of panties, this is not good. This is not good. Because the pant shows the figure of the body as nothing else. So please embrace, do not embarrass, teach, do not rebuke, and leave the choice for people. This is house of Allah. Definitely we all love that anyone coming here respects the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that will come in due time. Some will take longer time than others. We have to be patient. They are all our children, they are all our own blood and flesh, and we have to make them happy coming to the masjid, the house of Allah. But they have to take responsibility for their willingness to listen, learn, and improve. They should not go worse than when they started. So if somebody comes here thinking that hijab is only the head cover and the rest of the body doesn't matter, then I should not see them taking off the head cover altogether. At least keep what you came with, don't go worse. If you don't improve, don't go worse. Okay. Jazakumullah khair. 1 minute left? Okay. One question? Yes. Alaikum assalam.
What about the boys who are wearing like high?
Thank you. I thought my time was up and they will get unscathed, but we boys should never wear tight pants. We boys should never wear tight pants because the same condition applies. Okay? Even though your so-called awra is limited between the navel and the knee, right? But even that, some come to the masjid with their knees uncovered, at least when they pray. Some others, unfortunately, come with short shirts that their back is uncovered, especially when they make ruku' or sujood. Covering your awra is your responsibility. Don't wait for anyone to tell you what your awra is or how to cover it. Tight pants do not cover the awra. I hope this is clear. Okay. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.